Yeah.
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 Thank you.
How you doing, Cathy Richardson?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Keep
Good.
that love alive. Where's that song? Why were you inspired to sing that one today?
Well, that's from my favorite band ever, Heart.
Ah,
Uh,
that's
so
perfect.
it's a literal heart song.
Didn't you meet them? Didn't you meet them once?
Yes.
Like,
I've opened for them a couple of times.
that's
Well,
so
once I
cool.
opened for Heart was just Anne at House of Blues in Chicago with my band, and that was an amazing. Oh my God, my parents came. It was so awesome. And then years later, when I was in Jefferson Starship, our manager happened to tell us, "Oh, we almost had a gig in Honolulu opening for Heart, but Paul didn't want to do it because he said we don't open for them; they open for us." And I was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? They're my favorite band." And then I left, and I'm driving in my car, and I'm like, "Ask if you can open." So I just called him. I said, "Hey, what about me? Can I do it?" And he
Oh,
said, "Let me pitch it." So they booked me solo acoustic. I went just by myself.
oh my,
I flew to Hawaii for 2 shows, and I actually had to leave Hawaii and go back because we had a show in California. So I flew by myself. I was all alone, and I'm like, this is just 100% for me. It's for nobody else. I had no witnesses except for whoever was there, but like, I was like, this is amazing, amazing gift. And I got to hang out backstage, and I met Nancy that time, and she was totally cool. She was just like, she's one of us. It was awesome. Yeah.
wow,
Great life moment.
so much. I mean, that is what it looks like when you follow your heart. Like that's
Yeah,
a perfect story. So that's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that.
of course.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So it's so good to be going through the chakras and more going through the blessings and lessons that we can learn from looking at ourselves. The talk today is inspired by something that came up in meditation, which was just a gentle invitation that just said to take heart in the midst of this great communal healing that we're in. Those who wish to be helpful and those who wish to be of service must see themselves as holy. And in order to do that, we must take heart. The heart doesn't lie. It's the center of guidance, it's the center of direction. And we can begin, if we don't already, to trust our heart. Through the current events that we're going through can feel chaotic and disconcerting. They're nothing more than unexpressed energy or emotion that's now given permission to be seen and heard and hopefully healed. And when I say hopefully healed, the hope rests on you and me. That we won't fear it, but that we'll take into consideration what we are extending, what we are feeding the mass conscious agreement. And it will take a real dedication. And it does take a real dedication for us to stay in balance and to stay in peace and to stay in fearlessness. But we are bold enough to stand in the storm and know that there's nothing to fear. The world is a very, shifty place, and that we can still be in love with it. Though the world is in transition, what we know is that, and what we can know is that, if you study A Course in Miracles anyhow, is that a happy outcome is guaranteed. So it might feel rocky, and we might experience a jagged essence of ourselves, but we get to work with the patterns of our heart and our heartbeat, which is pure intelligence, our own intelligence. And it assures us that we have no need to entertain that jagged, jumpy, chaotic, junky energy that we talked about last week. That junky energy is fear energy, that we're going to allow ourselves to move right along into the blissful elegance of the intelligence of love. That's a beautiful thing to give yourself. That's a beautiful thing to give the world. In A Course in Miracles, it says, light and joy and peace abide in me. Light and joy and peace abide in me. And if that's true, then light and joy and peace extend from me. we can gain a bit of confidence in and a bit of balance to say that I am literally the heart of God. I live in the heart of God. I'm in this extension and this reciprocal nature of love. And when I work this, when I remember this, I'm less likely to be fear's chew toy. I'm less likely to get caught up in the, fears of my own making. I am living in the heart of God. And by that, what I mean is that, like the heart, I take in what is, I bless what is, and then I release it. This is what the heart does. And it's also what love does. It takes in, it blesses, and then it extends. The heart is split into two separate sides, two different pumps. One side of the pump brings in this dark red blood, and it brings it into the lungs, and the blood is darker because it's done circulating through the body, and it's depleted of its oxygen, which the oxygen makes the blood brighter. And it's depleted of its nutrients. It's already sent it to all the parts of the body. And so the darker blood goes into the lungs, and the lungs breathe more life in the form of oxygen and nutrients back into the blood. So that's the first pump. I think it's interesting to note that it changes tones when it takes in the oxygen. It becomes a brighter shade because it's taking in what we would call light. So if the blood gets the oxygen from the lungs get the oxygen from nature, and nature gets the oxygen from photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is pretty basically light. So the light of the sun is literally and poetically roaming through our bodies and lighting up our blood. That's the red river that moves and oxygenates every part of our being. So we're basically solar powered. I think that's kind of cool. So light and joy and peace literally and poetically abide in me. This other side of the pump moves out into the body and it extends. So even in the heart, it takes in, it blesses, it makes it better, and then it extends out. This beautiful dual-sided pump has been beating in your body since you lived in your mother's womb. And it's always been your loyal little drummer boy. And but our emotions can be a bully to the drummer boy or can bless the drummer boy. Taking heart is when we get to be in peace with ourselves. I breathe in this breath, I bless it, and then I release it out into the world. I breathe it in, I bless it, and then I release it out into the world. Or do I? That's the question. Because sometimes things come in, or sometimes things come knocking, and instead of just being with it and blessing it, I let it knock the wind right out of me, Instead of taking heart, I take offense, or I take it personally, or, I take in agitation. I don't always just embrace it. So that's going to be the responsibility of each and every single one of us. When the message is good, it's easy to breathe in and bless things. When the message is fearful, it's not so easy. And my emotions take over, and my little drummer boy goes tone deaf, and the rhythms go all off the charts. And this is the place where fear starts to rattle the cage. And I literally hand my power and my peace over to whatever it is. And I let it have its way. And my drummer boy is shaking in his shoes, and I'm fear's bitch. And that's what it looks like. So we don't want that. I don't want that. You don't want that. And I don't want that for you. We want to learn how to have greater balance, to harness our own power, to leap past all the despairs, not to be convinced by these shyster sermons, but to really allow ourselves to know a greater truth about ourselves, to really allow ourselves to experience grace and elegance in those moments where fear wants to rattle the cage. So today with the heart chakra, we're talking about really including the heart in all of our decision making and all of our conversations. Last week, I was a bit fired up about the solar plexus. I hope you got fired up this week too. Beth Gordon apparently went out and literally lit up some stuff last night, so she's on point. I talked about the solar plexus and the fire in the belly, and that fire will lead us to great adventures, but the will can also lead us into unforgiveness. We can be fired up in fear. We can be fired up in hatred. It can lead us to unforgiveness and stagnation. And the will is the gas in the tank and the personal power. But that power, that powerful compass, can benefit from the wisdom of the heart. So the heart is sort of like the love barometer. The heart, as I said, never lies. The heart lets us know what's for us and what's not for us if we're willing to listen to the heart. It tells us about true desires and most optimal collaborations and the real goal of our journey here on earth, which is to extend love. Like that heart, we take in, we bless, we extend. It's so simple, even a child could do it. And they do it. They do it all the time. So love is extending. Love extends and is extending from love, not from fear. That's an important part, because we can't give what we don't have. If you want love, you must come from love. You must allow yourself to first anchor in love. We're actually going to do an exercise today that will help us to all anchor in love. But so often we kind of override that wisdom of the heart and we throw away this intelligence that's there for us. So this week, I'm going to invite you to really entertain this most opulent and divine wisdom that will impact your journey if you listen to it. In the body of work called Heart Math, and I'm sure most of you have heard of Heart Math, it's really beautiful. They started in like 1990, so it's kind of new wisdom. It's not really new to us because we already knew it. They're just scientifically proving it. They tell us that the mind and the heart are in constant conversation and that the heart does most of the talking. And so when I heard that, I thought, man, I'm always listening to my mind, but am I listening to my heart? Heart Math says that your intuition, your intuitive heart, is the shortest and most effective route between intention and its destination. Joked about, Beth Gordon before, where she is touching and she's tapping into her heart every time she makes an important decision. And that's not actually just a symbolic thing, but it's a scientific way to include your heart in the wisdom. So listening to your heart will help you to live a more heart-centered life. And it also brings you to balance. The heart is a connector. It connects things, right? So it connects you with your relationships of your desires. It connects you with your relationships of your loved ones. It also is the chakra that connects the lower 3 chakras with the upper 3 chakras. We went through the root and the sacral and the solar plexus. Then we get to the heart. That's the center. We'll move into the throat chakra, the third eye, and then the crown. So this is the center of the system. The heartstrings connect us with everything that lights us up, just like the sun lights up our blood. So how do we listen to our heart? What is the language of the heart? It speaks in energy. It actually speaks in energy, and we must begin to acknowledge energy and in a conscious way. We already do it most often in an unconscious way. So the energy of guilt, the energy of shame, the energy of fear, of lack, of jealousy, anger, all of these are just energies, and we get to entertain them or we get to excuse them. These are energies or movements of energy that cause us to feel jagged. And when we're in those thought systems, we can look at our heartbeat on a graph and it will literally show us a jagged picture. This is what they've come up with at Heart Math, along with a huge body of other work that really shows us how connected we are. But it will show us a jagged picture. And of course, we're going to feel jagged and out of accord and out of harmony. Many people believe that this is normal. That this is a normal state of being, to be jagged and chaotic and jealous and, thin, drama. It's not normal. Peace is normal. Peace is what's actually normal. And when we're in peace and joy and light, the graph of the pattern of our heart, it's in balance, and it shows this very fluid image on the screen of just an easy and graceful way of moving. In Heart Math, they tell us that we are all connected with each other. And like I said, this is the science that they've been working with. They've done 300 different studies, but we don't need any more studies, do we? Do we need any more proof that we connect with each other, that we affect one another? And again, they're just proving what we already know to be true. We are synchronized to the magnetic fields of each other and to the earth. We feed the field with our fear, or we feed the field with our love, and we get back whatever we put into it. Jesus said this back in the day. It's done unto you as you believe. Jesus took in. He took in the leper, he took in the whore, he took in the water, and he blessed it. And in his blessing, he transformed the leper into vitality, the whore into innocence, the water into wine. You know, then he turns around and says, this and greater things shall you do. And they teach this technique actually in heart math. That's exactly what Jesus did. It's a technique that they call shift and lift. I don't know why shift and lift sounds so funny to me, but sometimes I call that raise and praise. It's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing that they're doing at heart math, the same thing that Jesus did, the same thing that I'm going to walk you through later in just a few minutes. But first I wanted to tell you a few other things about the heart. You know, as far as the chakra goes, you can find out so much information about the heart. I mean, we could be here all day talking about the heart. There's so much to know about the heart. There's so much to celebrate about the heart. There's so much intelligence in the heart. But the idea of taking heart made me think of, you know, when people are heartless. And that's such a tough place to be when you find yourself with someone who's heartless or feeling heartless. In following the story of the Wizard of Oz, there's the Tin Man who really wanted a heart. In his song, he said, I'll be tender, I'll be gentle, and awfully sentimental regarding love and art. I'll be friends with the sparrows and the boys who shoot the arrows if I only had a heart. And he sings this song about romancing the idea of the heart. And the wizard says to him, you're wrong. He says, you're wrong, man. You're all wrong. You don't want a heart, you know? He says a heart makes people unhappy. You know, if you only knew how lucky you were not to have a heart. Hearts will never be profitable until they become unbreakable. And so I don't believe what the wizard has to say. And I actually believe that even with a broken heart, you're better off than having no heart at all. Heartbreak is a fact of life. You know, no one is safe from it. There's no insurance company that's going to cover that sort of thing. So when it happens to you, and it happens to all of us, it can leave us feeling blindsided and spinning. And we don't plan for this sort of experience. But a broken heart is, I think, a very fertile ground for where possibilities live. It gets us right down into the core of our being. We don't plan for these heartbreaks, you know, these breakdowns, but they happen, you know, they happen to us. And not planning for them and not thinking that they're going to happen doesn't make us stupid or Pollyanna, but it's because we don't think about, like when you're getting married, you don't think about divorce. You know, when you're falling in love, you don't think about breaking up. You know, it's almost like you think that's something that happens to the other guy. And we all do, you know, sort of gallop into love like this is going to end really well. And sometimes, many times, it doesn't end well, but there's still something for us there. So we will be brought to our knees. This is something important to talk about when we talk about our heart. We will curse the heavens and mop the floors with our tears, and we will have the punch land, and the wind will be removed from our sails, and the world will turn its back on us. It will happen. And that's the time when we're supposed to take heart. You know, that in the midst of the tenderization of the soul, you know, when everything is being pruned and in the aftermath of everything burning down, there in that space, I have seen it more times than not, there swells something that is so awesome. It's that phoenix rising from the ashes. That thing that threatened to kill us is the very spot where some of us actually learn how to really live. You have been through this. You've been broken down. You've been heartbroken. And that has been the thing that's helped you to really live. So when it happens again, because it will happen again, don't shut down. Keep the door open. Take heart. We come to that brokenness, and though it's not an appointment that anybody's looking forward to, there's almost something, I think, mystical that happens that rises from the ashes of that death. And if we get through it, if we hold on, if we keep the door open, even just a little bit, we'll witness something that's beyond beautiful. It's the expansion of our consciousness that happens there. And for all the heartbreak in the world, it's absolutely worth it. So we've heard the idea, like, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And I don't really love that idea, because I really think that we're at the cusp of our consciousness where we can learn through not having broken hearts. Where we can learn to get to that degree of intelligence by not having our heart broken, but having our heart honored. Dorothy had that wisdom with her all along. She didn't use it because she didn't know how to access it. But Glenda said to her, like, tap in, tap your shoes, tap into yourself, tap into your heart. So these life catastrophes are actually more often the catalyst, but there might be a gentler way of going, to sort of sidestep our breakdowns and just get to our breakthroughs. I'm all about that. I've learned, like I've said before, I've learned through being tossed into the hot oil. And I have also learned through just really anchoring in love. And I will say that anchoring into love is a way sweeter classroom. But that requires that we stay in love no matter what knocks at the door. Careers will crumble. The harsh hand will help us hit bottom. Terrible and beautiful things will happen to us. Be not afraid. Most of the time, the terrible things are good fodder for funny stories, in an hour or a year or so. But if you survive it, as you will find something so beautiful, which is a bolder heart. And even if your heart is smashed into a million pieces, even still, gather up those shards, because they are powerful, and carry on with your busted and broken up heart, because it's a billion times better than losing heart. No matter what happens, never lose heart. Because in your darkest hour, someone loves you. And in your darkest hour, someone is waiting for your love. Trust me, you will live to love again, even when you swear you'll never love again. So always, always, always take heart in the good days and in the bad days. And it will take you to places that you can only now just dream of. And that's not just the word, but that is everything. That's love. And love is all that there is. So we're going to do a short little exercise before we close out, which is from Heart Math. And we could call it our Beth Gordon. So what you do is you just focus on your breath. As Maureen led us earlier into our breath, like focus on that breath and allow yourself to take a nice, beautiful, deep, expansive, and generous breath. Maybe let yourself take the deepest breath you've taken yet today. Really breathe in that oxygen. You know that oxygen is light. That light is moving into your lungs. Those lungs are oxygenating that blood. That blood is moving light into every cell of your body. So take in that breath. And once you're feeling yourself centered and feeling a bit more full, allow yourself to tap into appreciative thoughts, loving thoughts. Think of those people, those experiences in your life where you love effortlessly and where you are loved effortlessly. And if you can, even imagine, if you can, the experience of your heart swelling and your heart growing. And as that begins to happen, also imagine all of the things that you've yet to do, all of those wonderful desires that live on the horizon. Imagine all of those people in your life and all of the wonderful things that they have yet to do, all of the incredible and amazing opportunities that are just waiting for us. See if you can cultivate a greater experience of joyful appreciation. And in that space, allow yourself to extend that love out into the world. Imagine it being carried like water to anybody who you feel has lost heart. Anybody who you feel may have lost their way or could use a little love. And as you extend that love out into the world, just notice the energy that is surrounding you. And this is a short and simple exercise that you can use all of the time. Radiating love from your heart to the world. Love is not just an illusionary thing. It is a power and a force. It's a salve. It's a song. It's a sensation. It's energy. And you have the right to harness it, to bless it, and to extend it. And that's the word.
I had a song all ready to go. Maybe I'll save that for my last song.
All right.
Because when you were talking at the, I'm like, oh, she switched it on me. Now I got a better, even more perfect song. This is, okay, so my theme today is like rock and roll fantasies coming true from
Yes.
following your heart.
Yes.
Long time ago, I was out there like looking for gigs, and I contacted this festival, and I basically wrote them a letter saying that they would be brilliant geniuses if they hired me to play at their festival. And they booked me, and they put me in front of the Indigo Girls. It was one of my favorite acts in the world, and I was backstage. And I was before the gig, I was still here at home. I was riding my bike, and it suddenly flashed on me, they're going to ask you to sing with them. And I was like, oh my God, I get just flashed in my head and I've seen them a bunch of times in concert, and they always had their opening acts come up and sing with them on Closer to Fine. So sure enough, I'm standing there backstage. They walk right up to me with the lyrics for Closer to Fine, and do you want to sing this with us? I'm like, yes, and I don't need the lyrics, you know?
Yeah.
So that was the first time. And then I met Kristen Hall, another Atlanta singer-songwriter, who's friends with them. And we wrote this song together. And I had envisioned it like being a duet between like Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt or something. And she says, well, why don't you sing it? And we'll ask Emily to sing the duet with you. And they were coming to Chicago for a show. And I was in New York at the time. I flew home, booked the studio. And she said, yes, you do it. And so this is the song, Blindsided by Love, that is on my record, The Road to Bliss. But let me come back and do another song, because I have another great story after this.
Okay, great. You can stay all day.
Turn my reverb back on here. It's hard to see right now. Maybe you can admit it. It's time to let it go. Baby, you're too deep in it. Time will tell you what is true. Heaven has a plan for you. You already own it. So don't give up now. Never stop hoping. No, shut it down. Leave your heart open. You'll never know when it could be coming. Before you know it, you could be blindsided by love. You should know by now there ain't no way around it. There's only one way out. You'll know it when you found it. After all that you've been through, I can tell you what to do. You already know blindsided by love, blindsided by love, when it could be coming before you know it, you could be blindsided by love, blindsided by love, ooh, blindsided by love.
Woo! Beautiful.
Thank you.
And that song is awesome. You wrote that song.
I did with Kristen Hall, who is an amazing songwriter. She went on from there to form the band Sugarland, who has become a huge multi-platinum. She's not in the band anymore, but she created that band.
Man, well, that's beautiful. That's
Thank
a
you.
gorgeous song. Love
Thank
it
you.
every single time. It makes my heart swell.
Yeah, so hi. So I decided, instead of talking about what I love about Speakeasy, given the subject matter today, I wrote a love letter to Speakeasy. And this is it. Dear Speakeasy, I never wanted to fall under your spell. I've had more than enough Sunday morning church. I'm not a joiner. Spending half my Sundays driving 1,000,000 miles was not for me. But in A Course in Miracle circles, I kept hearing one name again and again, Maureen Muldoon, a firecracker who teaches the Course like nobody else. So one slow Sunday, I found my way to Hinsdale. Nothing had prepared me for the experience. One of the all-time greats of rock and roll was there to belt out the music. Dogs roamed freely, allowing themselves to be petted. Children danced in the aisles. There was warm hugs from the happiest people. And then there was Maureen, a red-headed dynamo with her wit and wisdom, light and laughter, joy and generosity, and of course her love of alliteration. Resisted. I like spending my Sundays with the depressing New York Times. I fought as long as I could, but my resistance failed. Speakeasy belongs to all of us. Joiners, loners, rockers, aging hippies, young, Trump supporters, Bernie fans. Nobody's ever judged. Everyone is embraced. Maureen's a miracle magnet. When I worried about driving the 80 winter miles in my Prius, Pam Nichols, who lived one town over, magically appeared, insisting that she drive in her Infinity SUV with the heated seats. Sunday at Speakeasy became the highlight of my week. When COVID hit and Speakeasy transformed, it hit me hard. I don't like change. So silly. Speakeasy was never about the physical place, never about the puppies and the warm oatmeal. It's the people the Maureen magnet draws. Now all you need is the internet, and you too can fall in love with Speakeasy. No driving, no makeup. You don't even have to get out of bed. It's impossible to share with you the many changes I've experienced in the 4.5 years that Speakeasy starts my week and Miracles Live begins my days. Her writing retreat and classes reawakened my love of writing. Her insight has helped me through losses and challenges. Every relationship I have has changed, becoming lighter and easier. My life is fuller, richer, happier. Maureen is a shaman. Fall in love with her and Speakeasy. You will live easier, speak kinder, and, to use one of her phrases, you will love more and fear less. Love and kisses, Elizabeth.
That was so delicious. I want to watch that like 100 times.
So great.
So awesome. Elizabeth is going to be giving a sermon at SpeakEasy in November. We have a lineup of women and men who are coming to speak at our community. If you feel like that's something you'd like to do, you know, there's a place for everyone to speak easily. Gosh, Elizabeth, A+. Especially the part about me. Made me cry and then blush and then laugh. So loved it. Thank you so much. That was so generous of you. And now we get to hear from Cathy Richardson again. This is like one spiritual orgasm after the next.
Yay. Miracle magnet.
Yeah.
That's what your new
Nickname.
byline or catchphrase can be.
Thanks.
Maureen Muldoon, miracle magnet. A lot of M's, a lot of alliteration. It's perfect.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, everybody, for coming and being part of this every week. It's really great. It's really great to step outside of everyday life and take a minute. Excuse me. I just, I had to take my medicine. Now I'm coughing. Okay, so I was in the airport in somewhere, and I'm heading into the women's room, and I just happened to glance at this other woman coming out because she had a guitar. And I realized it was Jill Sobule, my favorite songwriter in life. And I was like, oh my God, Jill Sobule. I'm like, I can't believe I'm running into you there. I love you so much. You're my favorite songwriter. I think you're the greatest American living songwriter in the world. And I love you. I've opened for you before. I'm a musician too. And blah, 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 blah. And she was just like, oh, that's so nice. Thank you. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to keep you. I'm just going to, I'm going to just go in the bathroom and, you know, this is so amazing. I just want to tell you how great you are. So I go in the bathroom and I come out and she's kind of like on her phone, like kind of lingering, you know, texting somebody. And I saw her again. I was like, hi. And I just was like, I just didn't want to bother her, you know, but I should have known that, of course, she would appreciate getting recognized by someone who thinks she's the greatest person in the world. So anyway, next we're meeting the band at baggage, and they were flying in from California, and I'm over it. And she was on the same flight with them. And she's like, do you know where baggage is? And I'm like, yeah, it's right over here. And so I'm like, oh my God, will you take a picture with me? And so we end up taking a picture, and I, you know, I said, oh, I know, I see you're coming to City Winery, but I can't go because I have to get up really early the next day to go. I have a very early flight, so I can't go out. And she goes, oh, well, if you want to come, you know, you could be on my guest list. And I was like, oh, I really, really want to come, but I just, you know, I have to get up so early. And she goes, again, she says, but if you want to. And I go, oh, of course. Yes, of course I want. She's inviting me to her show. I'm like, I will come sell merch for you. I would sell your t-shirts. And so anyway, it ends up, she asked me if I want to sing a song with her. And I'm like, yes, I do. And so she asked me what song I wanted to do. And so I chose this next song. And I get to City Winery, and it's just her in the dressing room and just me. She's got her guitar on. She's standing there by herself. I walk in the room. She looks at me. This is very suspenseful. I know, I'm trying to find my lyrics. She looks at me, and directly in the eyes, we sing this song to each other in this tiny room. And we're like in circles. It was like the most. Okay, here we go. This is the song. Here's her. One leg in, one leg out. What do you get with a half a heart? Part brave soul, the rest is not. What do you get with a half a heart? half a mind, a half a spine, a half a glass, a half a life. One step in, one step out. What do you get with a half a heart? One breath in, one breath out. Coming and going with a half a heart. One eye looks lovingly, the other looks right through me, in search of something better or more beautiful. To fill you up, to fill your cup, to make you feel like you're the king of the hill. One step in, one step out. What do you get with a half a heart? The angels on my shoulder whisper in my ear, say, what do you got to lose? The gremlins on the other side say, she doesn't really love you. And while I'm singing and I start harmonizing with her, her face like, it was so awesome. We're halfway there, we're halfway back. We've half a chance, we're so half-assed. You say hello, I say goodbye. We turn in circles and we both change sides. One step in, one step out. One breath in, one breath out. One leg in, one leg out. What do you get with a half a heart? A heart.
Oh my God, Cathy.
Your
So good.
your
Wonderful.
stories are only surpassed by your singing, but your stories are awesome. People in the comments
you.
are like, Cathy needs her own show. You've known this.
It was the most insane moment. I'm like, this is so surreal. It's just me and her, and we're singing her song, and we're going around the room. And literally, when I started the harmony, I saw her face just, she was so she lit up. It was so awesome. So then we did it on stage, and then she's like, do you want to do another one? And I'm like,
Did you make it to your gig the next morning?
Of course. It was so stupid of me. Like, why, when we're like offered amazing things, do we say no? Like, try to talk ourselves out of it. And she, thank God, was like, but if you want to. And I'm like, oh, duh. Yes, of course I should. This is a miracle. Say yes to miracles.
And that miracle, like, was a story that just lit everybody up. Like
Thank you.
her face is still lighting people up. Like, that's kind of cool, isn't it? Like, that's
Really cool.
That's very cool. So